Hello everyone and welcome to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross. Yes, you can't see me, but I am here and this is a very special show. If you've been around the channel, you know that the first Monday of a major is nothing but comment response for 30 minutes. I absolutely love this show because a lot of people get to see their voices heard. Not really their voices, their words. They get to see their words read by me, and it's a lot of fun because this is always a fun time in tennis where we're about to embark on a 2-week journey. No one knows what's going to happen. They might pretend to know what's going to happen, but they don't. And it's a lot of fun. As always, I will read the comments in order of most likes to less likes. And in this video, it's going to be unique because I'm going to show you the comments for those watching on YouTube and not listening on audio on iTunes or Spotify or however you get your podcasts. And I'm going to put all of the comments on the screen so you can see that I don't cheat and I read every single comment as long as it has enough likes. The first comment is an interesting one. It's from Michael Neves. Do you laugh as much at Goldwolf's comments as we do? Okay, I did not think I'd be starting the show like this, but here we go. I'm sure a lot of you are actually really excited to hear me answer this question. My answer, I'm afraid, might disappoint you because I don't have actually all that much to say. First of all, I feel like my property ends at the bottom of my video. The comments, it's open forum, it's the internet. I don't feel like I get to control what people say on the internet. So it's just completely out of my hands to me in terms of policing the comment section. What I'll say about Goldwolf, is he completely crazy and over the top about Novak Djokovic? Yeah, I think it's safe to say he is. He's a very loyal Rafa Nadal fan, and his opinions on Djokovic, in my opinion, are insane. With regards to him kind of crossing the line with the personal insults, he does it sometimes. I don't like it when he does it, but again, unless I haven't seen anything that has been too terribly awful to the point where I feel the need to do anything about it. In reality, also, on the other side, there are people who comment that Nadal only has his accomplishments because he's on steroids. You see everything on the internet, you read everything on the internet. Goldwolf just happens to be incredibly and impressively consistent, like impressively consistent with the amount he comments. He's generally one of like the first 5 people who comments on my videos. I also, by the way, I assumed Goldwolf's gender. He comes across as a guy, but Goldwolf, if you are a woman, I really don't think you are. In fact, I'm almost positive you're not. But you never know. Anyway. So let's move on. Gene Swart asks, do you think Federer will go deep here? What tactics does he have to employ to be successful at this tournament? For the most part, I think that Federer just plays his game on clay. And in Madrid, I didn't see that much that was different. The only thing I saw that was different from Federer was his use of height and depth. And that goes both ways. So on clay, I'm going to start by explaining this. On clay, if you don't want to take the ball on the rise, and it's a little bit tougher to take the ball on the rise because you get an inconsistent bounce. If you don't want to take the ball on the rise, you have to move back a little bit further than you would have to on other surfaces. To get the ball below your shoulder or at shoulder level where you'd like it, you have to move back because the bounce is higher. I think that Federer likes to take advantage of this by playing with a little bit extra spin to try to push his opponents back and then mixing in low slice, shallow in the court, and even drop shot. So the one thing that I see on clay that Federer uses that I don't think he really uses as much on fast court is the high looping forehand. And he couples that, I think, with very nice use of the drop shot. And he gets so much backspin, so many revolutions on the on the drop shot, especially on the backhand side, that he really gets the grippy court surface, the clay, to thwart the ball's forward momentum and bounce very shallow in the court. So Federer does a really good job on pushing his opponents back and then taking away the depth with the drop shot. So that's one thing that I see. But for the most part, Federer needs to keep playing first strike tennis, keep going to the net, keep playing aggressive with his forehand, keep mixing it up, and exposing his opponent's weaknesses because he has the arsenal to do so. The next comment is from Haider Raha, perhaps it's pronounced. Gill, I just have to know why you have chosen Djokovic to defeat Nadal in 5 sets in your prediction, even though clearly Novak has a tougher route to the final. Even if Nadal does meet all the seeded players apart from Tsitsipas, I don't see anyone coming close to taking a set off him. Then he goes on to say, can you update us on the new Court Philippe Chatrier, which is undergoing some renovations? So a lot of people have pointed to the draw as their kind of rebuttal. And first of all, I understand that I'm going against the grain here. I understand that Nadal is the favorite, should be the favorite, is rightly so the favorite. I completely get that I'm making a bold prediction here, and I don't expect most people to agree with me. I really don't. It's hard to pick against Rafa Nadal. I said this on Twitter. I've never picked Nadal to not win the French Open in my life since I have been old enough to actively make predictions in tournaments, which has probably been, 7, 8 years. I have never thought that Nadal is not going to win the French. This is the first year I'm picking against him. So, I completely get why Nadal comes into this tournament every single year, and it should almost be assumed that he's going to take it. He's won 11 of 13 that he's played in, and he had to pull out with injury out of one of them. Or that's not correct, sorry. He's won 11 in 14 years. The one that he pulled out of injury was one of the years, but not one of the tournaments, if that makes any sense. But a lot of people pointing to the draw. Again, I think that Nadal is nearly a lock to make the final. And I think Djokovic, well, it's possible he could lose before the final. I think that there's a way bigger chance that Nadal reaches the final compared, or not a way bigger chance, but I think Nadal has a greater chance of reaching the final than Djokovic. But when it comes to the matchup, I refuse to say, okay, well, first of all, okay, Djokovic is going to be fatigued. He's not going to have enough left in the tank by the final. I think that's extremely presumptuous. It's no guarantee that Dominic Thiem is going to make the semifinal. Even if Dominic Thiem does make the semifinal, let's say they play a 5-setter. I don't think history suggests that if Djokovic plays a 5-setter on Friday at Roland Garros, which he would be the Friday match, I believe is how the scheduling would go, that he would have no chance on Sunday. I'm just saying that right now. So the fatigue thing, I don't buy that as an argument. When Djokovic has been fully motivated since Wimbledon, I don't really think anyone has come close to reaching his level. Is this recency bias? Yes, I have recency bias. It is recency bias. Is that always a bad thing? Probably not. Sometimes recency bias is logical. And recently, when Djokovic has been fit and motivated, and this goes against him. It goes against him that he hasn't always been fit and motivated. Yeah, for him, that's one of his weaknesses at this point in his career, is that he's not always motivated and he's not always conditioned. But in the cases where he has been conditioned and motivated, I don't think anyone has come close to reaching his level. Now you're going to say, Gill, what about Rome? What about Rome? Again, I really feel that some people overreacted from the Rome result. Nadal needed that win in Rome so much more than Djokovic needed the win in Rome. Djokovic was just coming off the win in Madrid. He was dead tired. And yes, that was his fault. Could he have beaten Del Potro a little bit easier? Sure. Could he have played shorter matches? Sure. But nonetheless, that match in a vacuum, Nadal, after what had happened in Melbourne, after what had happened in Monte Carlo, Madrid, and Barcelona, Nadal needed that. He needed that win. And Djokovic, he was tired. I'm sorry. It's not an excuse. It's just the truth. I'm sorry. If you don't like that, I mean, again, I will only say that a player is tired if I see it on the court. I will not base it off of results in previous matches. We'll only go off what I'm seeing on the court. The reality is about that match, Nadal should have won, and he did. He did what he was supposed to do. The fact that Djokovic took a set, I bet Novak is happy about that. I bet in an honest moment, and he would never admit this publicly, I bet in an honest moment, Djokovic would say, in the state I went into that match, the fact that I showed myself in the second set that I could just fight through, battle hard, and win a set in that match, I thought that was pretty good. I think that was enough for Djokovic. Certainly played like it in the third set. Now Nadal finally found his forehand in Rome, which he needs, but the fact that it hasn't been all that consistent throughout the clay court season, yeah, that matters. Here's the thing about Nadal and slow courts before I move on. I don't see Nadal as the same player that I saw him as 5 years ago. In the sense that I don't think the gap between his level on clay and his level on faster courts are as large. I don't think he's that much better on clay anymore. He's still amazing on clay, and it's still his best surface. But I think Nadal, in his new aggressive style, he is playing so much more aggressive, so much more attacking tennis. With the new style of play that he is implementing, I don't think he's that much better on clay than he is on fast courts. I picked him to win Wimbledon last year. I picked Nadal to win Wimbledon last year because of the way he was playing clay court tennis. To me, he was playing grass court tennis on clay, and he dominated that way. What we've seen is a Rafa Nadal who just hasn't quite looked right. Hasn't quite looked right since coming back from injury. Until one match in Rome, where he looked pretty good. Versus a guy in Novak Djokovic, again, when he's been motivated, when he's been fit, he has held his nerve in the biggest moments, which concerns me about Nadal at the moment. And no one has reached his level when he's been fully motivated. So I feel like this is the year when Djokovic could take away Nadal's undefeated record at finals on court Philippe Chatrier. I'm kind of going to close the book on this. I don't want to talk about this match. It's a hypothetical match for the next 2 weeks. I really want to just focus on the tennis that we have in front of us. But I hope that kind of cleared some things up. Again, I understand that Nadal's the favorite. And if that matchup happens, expect in my preview video, not to repeat what I just said, but expect in my preview video to show you what Nadal did in Rome that troubled Djokovic and to show you what Djokovic might do to counter. That's what you can expect out of my preview video if this match happens. And let's move on. I don't read Arabic, so I can't read this name. I'm kind of annoyed with this GOAT debate and all the biased arguments and stats. In my honest opinion, it is not very comparable for so many reasons. I would rather talk about 3 GOATs than just one. But if Novak wins this Roland Garros, which I doubt, Nadal is here, mountain to beat. He will hold all 4 slams in a row, second time, and he will have all slams won at least 2 times. This would be some next level SH star in the modern tennis. Your opinion. So it's very hard to argue with that. Novak is trying to become the first player in history to hold all 4 slams at the same time. But I don't really understand the point you're making because, I would rather talk about 3 GOATs than just one. I agree. For now, I agree because until they call it quits, this is an impossible debate. But if Novak wins this Roland Garros, are you saying that he would be the front runner for the GOAT? I don't know if that's what you're saying. So I don't really know exactly how to answer. I mean, my opinion on this is yes. I think that Djokovic, if he wins this French Open, I think that this is a comment. I think one statement that you could make when it comes to Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, if Djokovic wins the French Open, is that Djokovic might have to be considered the most versatile player when it comes to different surfaces in tennis history, right? That would be one thing you could say and could be backed up by a lot of stats and records that Federer and Nadal don't appear to be embarking on right now, right? Max AB asks, what were your thoughts on the Kyrgios podcast, specifically concerning Nadal/Joker? Nick Kyrgios went on Ben Rothenberg's podcast, and off of memory, he did some bashing of some of the game's greatest. Let's see. About Nadal, Kyrgios said that Nadal is salty, basically, and that he doesn't give credit when Kyrgios wins. About Djokovic, he said that he's fake and he wants to be liked, basically, that he has an obsession with being liked. So his complaint with Nadal was that he's salty, basically bitter after he loses, after Kyrgios beats him. His complaint about Djokovic was that he needs to be liked all the time. Here's the thing. Again, let's go player by player. As for what he said about Nadal, is Nadal salty when Kyrgios beats him? Yes, he is, because I think Nadal can't stand Nick Kyrgios. He should be salty. So, to me, that's just good competition. I've talked about this before. Rafa Nadal and Nick Kyrgios are polar opposite personalities. They shouldn't like each other. They shouldn't talk about they shouldn't talk as if they like each other, and that's completely fine. When it comes to Djokovic, Kyrgios actually says the thing that I gotta be completely honest. This is a flaw of Djokovic's. I actually kind of agree with this specific critique, that sometimes I feel like Djokovic gets frustrated when he's not getting love, when he doesn't feel loved, he gets a little frustrated. And I think what that does is it makes his detractors, the people who don't like him, it makes those people dislike him a little bit more. So just an honest critique of Novak Djokovic, and take it from someone who's a New Yorker. When Djokovic gets upset with the U.S. Open crowd for not supporting him properly, and I know that maybe he's in the right, and the U.S. Open crowd kind of is not giving him the respect he deserves when he plays Federer. Well, here's the thing. I will tell you this with confidence. When Djokovic shows visibly that he's annoyed with the crowd for not cheering for him over Federer, that's going to make them cheer for Federer louder. So I think that Nick is almost right there. What are my opinions on Kyrgios saying any of this at all? I think that Kyrgios is one of the personalities in our sport. And if everyone was Nick Kyrgios, so help me God, it would be unbearable. But to have a few Nick Kyrgioses, loose cannons, personalities, bashful kind of personalities, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like him, hate him, sure. Bad for tennis? I don't think so. Ajay Baines. Come on, Gold Wolf. I'm a Rafa supporter. I don't think I need to read this. Gill, sorry I'm posting on this here. Keep up the great work. I look forward to your responses. Thank you. Yeah, so I guess that wasn't exactly for me. Moving on. Amelia B. Out of the top candidates, who is least benefited with it being best of 5 sets? Do you think it would give Thiem an edge over Djokovic if they were to meet? No, I don't. Uh, you know, you could say Thiem has had his best clay court results in best of 3. You could make that argument. However, the only way I could see someone having an advantage in best of 3 is if they don't have the gas. And if anyone is going to tire, it's not going to be Dominic Thiem. So out of the top candidates, probably the person who would benefit most is Roger Federer because, I mean, I think if anyone is going to... Now Federer doesn't, none of the top guys get tired very often. But I would say that if Federer can kick it into this extra gear, that sometimes he holds back in the best of 5 format, or not that he holds back, but sometimes he needs to save some energy. And in best of 3, he could probably do a little bit more running and defending that maybe he wouldn't want to do in best of 5 when he's trying to conserve energy. That's just a thought. I would say Federer, but I don't really have much support other than the fact that he would probably appreciate these matches being a little bit less grindy and physical. Muhammad Ali Zaidi asks, will Novak be as dominant as he was in 2014-15 in this stage of his career? We saw last year when he was dominating that he lost in the finals of Paris and London. Even this year, the emphatic win against Nadal in Australia when everyone thought he would dominate again. Then there was a dip, and unfortunately I cut off this comment. That's my fault. The answer is no. Because in 2014-15, Federer and Nadal were not themselves, and Andy Murray was his biggest rival. And Murray at this time was playing awesome tennis, but I do feel that there's a little bit more depth right now, and that between not only Nadal and Federer, who are still posing threats, but also you have guys like Tsitsipas, who's already given him trouble. Guys like FAA coming up. If Zverev can get it together. And I think at this point in time, when it comes to Novak, those are the only people worth mentioning. And Zverev is almost arguably not worth mentioning at this time. Vanch Vermani, to what extent do you agree with Kyrgios' assessment of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Murray? I already talked about Nadal and Djokovic. Kyrgios said that he thinks Federer's the GOAT. That's his opinion. And Murray, they're best buds. Now, here's one thing I do want to say. Kyrgios is 6-6 all time against the big 3, if you don't include Murray. But he's never beaten Murray. And I think part of that, it just goes to show you how mental this is. When he plays Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, especially a guy like Djokovic, who he doesn't even respect, and Nadal, who he doesn't really like, he has no respect for these players, so he comes in with a certain entitlement, a certain mindset. And you have to wonder how much of Kyrgios' opinions of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, his lack of respect, at least for Nadal and Djokovic, how much does that play into how well he plays against them? Andy Murray and him, best buddies. One of his favorite friends, one of his favorite people on the tour is Andy Murray. And Kyrgios plays terrible against Andy Murray. Worth thinking about. OCS, Gill, you have to answer the most liked question, which is currently Michael Nevis. No dodging it. You see, people were very excited to hear me talk about Gold Wolf. All right. 5 more minutes, people. Who is the biggest threat to Novak before Dominic Thiem? Let's take Let's take a look. Well, I pull this up because I don't want to take time. I'm just going to go to the next comment. Gold Wolf asks, what round do I think Djokovic will choke? I don't think he will. OCS, real question. Despite me being annoyed at Nick Kyrgios for his comments on Novak, what are your thoughts on my theory that he can win Wimbledon, just to shorten it? My theory that Kyrgios can win Wimbledon. I don't know if physically he can play best of 5 for 2 weeks, and I don't know if mentally he can do it either. However, I kind of agree with you that the way he's played this year, he's shown some promise at times, and I do think he'll be very, very dangerous at Wimbledon. I'll answer Jose's comment in a sec. And Terry says, Gil, have you seen one of my videos? I want an honest answer now, my friend. Yes, I have, in Terry. You do a tremendous job. You are a really, really sharp tennis mind. I enjoy your comments, and I don't have much time to watch. I don't really watch other tennis YouTubers. I don't, is the truth. But I have seen in Terry's videos, and they're very insightful. What was the question? Djokovic, right? Oh, I think Fognini. I mean, Fognini can pretty much hit anyone off the court. So I think Fabio Fognini would be Djokovic's biggest threat before the final. Jaume Munar lost, so that was surprising to me. Potential third round matchup for Djokovic. That's good for him. Hurkacz was not that's an unlucky draw in the first round. Now Hurkacz is not, I don't think, a clay court player, but still, certainly at this time, a top 50 player, and he got through Hurkacz pretty easily. I think Fognini, though. Coric, Bautista Agut, Shapovalov, who lost, by the way, who was on my upset alert, so that was a good one, to Jan-Lennard Struff. I would say Fognini. How is the Philippe Chatrier playing? Rafa said the court's the same. It's still open. It's still windy. After the first day of matches, are your thoughts the same, or do you need more of a sample set? It looked, I'm not really sure. And a lot of my viewing today was Shardy and Edmund, because I had the British feed, so they were showing Edmund. So I did miss some of the action on Chatrier. I did not. I'm sure in the U.S. they were showing Serena, and then they were showing Thiem against Tommy Paul. I can't believe Tommy Paul hung in there with Thiem for so long. But I was watching Edmund and Shardy, which was an unbelievable match, and I'll take a second to say I can't believe it. It makes me very angry that the French Open doesn't have lights and that they have to stop that war. I think it's 6-all in the fifth set right now with Shardy and Edmund, and the crowd was into it, and the match had such a brilliant... It was at such a brilliant level, and I know that it won't be the same when they restart tomorrow. Let's try to get through these very fast now because I only have a minute or two left. If Djokovic wins against Nadal at Roland Garros, does it put him ahead of Nadal in the GOAT discussion? Not in the mood to answer that one. Okay, now we got a long one. Hey, Gil, Nadal is the easiest draw. Djokovic has a tough one. Excuse me. Personally, I see Nadal winning unless Novak arrives all the way to the final with confidence and a minimum of energy lost in the process. On the other hand, the quarterfinal Fed Tsitsipas seems so obvious. The winner. That's a very tough one for me. But I really do feel like Tsitsipas's forehand on clay is a weapon that I think can propel him past Roger Federer at Federer's current level on clay. I think that Tsitsipas's forehand is going to bring him so much success on this surface because he's so good at running around it. The ball slows down for him a little bit, so he has more time to run around it. His acceleration is so good. He generates so much pace, so much topspin, that I really think he can use that shot to get past Roger Federer. And I know that Tsitsipas will hold his nerve. And I think Federer will hold his nerve also, by the way. But Tsitsipas has shown that he can be the real deal in 5 sets, and on the big stage, he will not shy away. He thinks that fitness and physicality will decide between Rafa and Novak. And it's tough to say who would have the edge in fitness and physicality right now at this stage in their careers. It's pretty close. All right, let's get really rapid fire. Europe. Hey Gill, how's being in Europe like compared to home? I think that London is pretty similar actually to. I mean, it's different. It's different. First of all, I love it here. London is awesome in so many ways. Today, this is a loaded question. This might be a longer video. I might make a thoughts video on this. But I just want to say that today I was at a pub watching Aston Villa play Derby County in the promotional playoff final. And I made so many. The strangers were so friendly. They were Aston Villa fans, and they let's just say they taught me the songs. They taught me the songs, so now I know all the Aston Villa songs, and it was a good time. So I'm loving it here. Who goes further, Delpo or Zverev? I would have to say Delpo for sure. Gill, I think that Thiem doesn't have the consistency. It will cost him here. Your opinion? I think he's become more consistent, but I do think that is his biggest disadvantage against a guy like Novak Djokovic. How many more can we get through? Let's just try to finish them. Over the top. Were you surprised by the over-the-top hyperbole reaction of Rafa's fans when he beat clearly fatigued Novak in the Rome final? Yes, I think that there was some overreaction to the Rome final. The Parisians are the most passionate about tennis among all Grand Slam crowds. Agree or disagree? When it comes to supporting the French players, I agree. When it comes to, on average, the most engaged crowds, I think I want to give that to Australia. But I don't want to judge until I've been to all of them. And I'm going to the French, but I haven't been to Australia. Kyrgios is not worth a mention. Okay. Well, too late. Guess we blew that one. Thoughts on the women's side? I always like Halep on clay. Her lateral movement, her ability to hit on the run, her defense is so incredible. Her consistency is unreal. And because she doesn't get much from her serve, the clay kind of even things out for her. So I feel like Halep's the favorite. I'm excited to see what Bibi Andreescu does with her forehand on this surface. And I know that I think she dropped the first set, and I think she resumes tomorrow. So that should be interesting. But I would say that Halep is my pick on the women's side. All right, that's all I got. Hope you enjoyed. I certainly did. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.